that will be joining us later tonight. We have head coach of the Brunswick Blue Devils, Mark Pizone, and also the head coach of the Mentor Cardinals, Matt Gray. So as you see, Sean is our PowerPoint man. He will be taking the helm when it comes to the PowerPoints for the course of the year. Those are the teams in the Greater Cleveland Conference for this year. The Brunswick Blue Devils, the Euclid Panthers, the Medina Bees, the Mentor Cardinals, the Solon Comets, and the Stronsville Mustangs. Now, last year, the conference standings went as such. The Medina Bees won the conference with a 5-0 perfect record, and they finished the end of the season 10-0 overall. The Brunswick Blue Devils came in second at 4-1 in conference play, 6-4 overall. The Mentor Cardinals came in at 2-3 in the conference. They were 5-5 overall, tied with Stronsville, also 2-2 in the conference, 5-5 overall. The Solon Comets were 2-3. They were 4-6 overall. And the Euclid Panthers, unfortunately, did not get a win in either the regular season, in either the conference or the regular season. Next year, this conference will go through some changes. A couple of teams will be coming in from the east side. One is an old friend. The Shaker Heights Red Raiders will be coming back to the GCC. And another, the Cleveland Heights Tigers, will be joining the GCC for the first time and really contributing to that big school public division, big public school conference that we have here. Gentlemen, welcome. Greater Cleveland Conference. This is covered mostly by Josh Jeffy. He is our resident GCC guru here. Before we get started here with Coach Pizone.
Josh has to unmute himself, but when he does,
see, that's a rookie. Rob, you're telling me, we all got to mute, and my apologies to that. But thanks, Ed, for that intro. You did a great job. And I was just going to say, the GCC is obviously the big school conference. Up until before this year, every team was in Division I, Region I, and that's going to change with Solon dropping. That's one of the interesting parts to the conference this year is Solon's actually dropping down to Division II for competitive reasons. But this is a very interesting conference this year. Last year was dominated by Medina, obviously with Drew Allar. They made a great run deep into the playoffs. But then you have somewhat, 4 teams kind of in the middle of the pack there, kind of, real competitive. And then, last year Euclid had a down year, 0-10, but they got a new coach for them, Robert Andrews, who led Rhodes last year to a playoff berth. So they're an interesting team to watch. They got a few playmakers. So we'll talk about those teams a little bit later as we wait for Coach Pizone to come on. And speaking of Coach Pizone and the Brunswick Blue Devils, they are one of the interesting teams. They lost some players, some big-time playmakers for them due to graduation. So I'll be interested to talk to Coach Pizone to see, who's going to step up for them and actually lead the way. And speak of the devil. Speak of the Blue Devil. See how I did that?
Yes, pun intended. We do have the head coach of the Brunswick Blue Devils, Coach Pizone, joining us with a quick recap of the season. The 6-5 overall, 4-1 in the Greater Cleveland Conference. They were the number 8 seed in Division I, Region I. They did make the playoffs. A tough loss to the number 9 seed Berea Mid-Park Titans. They scored 26 points a game and gave up about 22, 23. And they have mostly the same schedule as last year, except Cleveland Heights replaces Avon. Coach Pizone, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
As well. Coach, a lot of new things going on. We got new turf going on at the stadium. Lots of turnover from some of the playmakers in the season. So if you can, let's recap a little bit about the summer and where the program's looking and heading into double started today. So heading into the shortened preseason.
Yeah, well, definitely, like you said, we're blessed to have new turf at Brunswick High School this year. It was time for us to get new turf, but as you can guess, there's delays, like in anything these days in our society, right? So, the way we were going to be able to practice and the facilities we have are, a little different. So right now we are practicing at our middle school, but the good news is our middle school is brand new. It's only a year old, and they've got a beautiful turf field there. So we practiced there. We just, having to move equipment and the logistics of moving 85 kids and 15 coaches is, always a tough thing. And When you've got other things going on in other sports, don't forget we have soccer programs and other things, and those guys are just as important. So, the facilities and logistics of this year have been a bit of a challenge, but our kids and our coaches and our parents have responded. So that's definitely one thing, and we'll be just fine, and we'll have that turf ready to go soon. You talked about turnover with our players and our roster, and the answer is absolutely that's 100% correct. There's no secret. The past 2 years, the COVID year in 2020 and this past year, we had a tremendous amount of guys that soaked up a lot of those Friday night snaps. And in the past 2 years, including this one, they've now graduated. So, we had a real nice 2 years here. I know it was a little difficult for us as well as everybody else with COVID. But we had a decent, what we call improved years. That's what my staff and our program say. We're an improved program, and our record has improved. Our program has improved from when we first started, and things were awful tough and difficult. And that's the good news. But now we, in terms of personnel, I really like what we have. We have great kids. We've got, kids that work hard, but a lot of them are young, and a lot of them have not played a lot on Friday night. We have, maybe one offensive lineman that started every snap. We've got a couple offensive linemen that saw some time, and that holds true with on defense. We have one guy that played every down at defensive end for us. It's returning, but we've popped him out the linebacker. He's one of our main defensive players, Chase Buckner. And then after that, there's guys that played some spot play, like on offense. They did the same thing on defense this year. So we got some spot players, but a lot of new guys, and there's a competition going on at quarterback, and so we'll see what these guys have in them. And today was a great first day.
Yeah, Coach, kind of expand on that. Obviously the quarterback is one of the most important positions on the football field. And last year, the last couple of years, you had Ethan Fritz there, who was, a proven leader, and it showed during the games and his playmaking ability. So talk about some of the guys that you have competing for that position this year.
Yeah, so Ethan was, basically about a 2-year starter for us. I mean, when he was a junior, Jake Charette was starting for us, if you recall, in 2020. And sadly, his leg kind of blew up against Medina. And so Fritz was forced into action, did a great job that year, and then was our leader throughout all of last year. And so, he's definitely well missed. But these two kids that we have right now that are competing, Johnny Crawford and Jake Roxanich, are doing an outstanding job. They're big kids, they're strong kids, they're good runners. They embrace coaching tremendously. Our offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Coach Jeff Foltz, has done a tremendous job with them in the off season and here in the preseason. They're maturing every day. They're improving every day. And we feel like we're going into the season with two capable, hardworking, talented athletes, and we're going to go from there.
Coach, a question I have, and then again, thank you for joining us tonight,
Sure.
is something we've asked all the coaches we talked to. We're kind of in the second year of this expanded playoffs, which is kind of kicking the season off a little bit earlier than most people are used to in times past. We're even seeing some situations where school isn't even in session. You guys are right into week one. How has your coaching? You mentioned obviously with your logistic problems, but how is that coaching, especially with a young team? How important is it just to be really harping on fundamentals at this part of the season and really getting your basic game plan installed for week one?
Well, when you make decisions like that, there's no such thing as a perfect decision, right? So,
right.
Some coaches have their viewpoints that the expanded playoff system is a good thing. Some think it's a bad thing. I think it's, got its goods and bads. Just like when you make, I always kind of compare football. That's why I like football so much, and I like being a financial advisor, because there's no perfect portfolio of stocks to pick, right? There's no perfect answer. Just like, if we had the perfect stock pick, we'd all be gazillionaires. Well, if we had the perfect play to run, we'd all be undefeated coaches and in the Hall of Fame. So when you make a decision on something like that, you're going to have not only differing opinions, but you're going to have, positives and negatives. And, people will tell you that the positives are, more teams get to play, and that's an opportunity for some athletic departments to make a little extra money. and the sense of community and the chance to build a program. And, I think those things are wonderful. I've coached at smaller schools, and, those are great opportunities. So, in that regard, I don't mind the expansion so much, but others will tell you that it might dilute competition a little bit, especially in that first week. And if it does, it does, and that's, I guess a little bit of a detriment to the decision that was made, but it provides opportunity and it gives hope, to a lot of communities in the state, particularly after coming off a couple of tough years with COVID. And when you talk about the logistics of preparing, because when we do that, we add that extra playoff week, you had to condense down everything on the front end of the scale in the season with doubles. Some people will tell you that, that's good, a little bit less hitting, less concussion, less injury. That's always a nice thing. We want to keep our kids healthy and safe. I think what it does, at least in our program, I don't know what other coaches think, but I think what it does as far as installing both fundamentals, like you mentioned, and your system, whether it's your offensive playbook or your defensive system or even special teams, I think that increases the value of June and July, where you're allowed to do your 10 days of, we call it instructional camp, that's our word for it, but the non-contact instructional time or 10-day rule, whatever you want to call it. And I think that increases the importance and value of that. So if you're a program, you want to get in your plays, you want to get in your system, you want to get in your fundamentals. And I think that our coaching staff and players this year and even last year did a great job of utilizing that time to our benefit, so that when we came in today, we pretty much already had our whole offense set in, our whole defense, our special teams. And today we were either reviewing or a couple of wrinkles off of our base. We were already in, our kids already knew what's going on, and we start hitting it. And the way we did it for acclimation, we're ready to start hitting tomorrow afternoon. And so we're going to see who the men are, right, when you're tackling, because we haven't been able to tackle our block. We got as many days as we could in based on our calendar in July, like we were allowed to under the state's new rule. And we need to complete one more day today. So tomorrow we're going to start seeing who the guys are, and the cream will rise to the top, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Coach Pizone, Rob here, and thanks for coming on tonight on our Greater Cleveland Conference preview show. And, you mentioned you have a young team. Talk a little bit about trying to get the offense and the defense, especially with some of these players that haven't had the Friday night lights. How are they taking the offensive playbook and the defense, and are you seeing progress there? Because obviously the season starts in a few weeks already. It seems like it gets earlier and earlier every year, but how are they taking the playbook, and are they understanding it pretty quick for you?
Well, before I start with that, Rob, I got to say, am I looking at some gray hairs on that beard, man? I mean, I remember when you were my fair-haired, peach-skinned student back in the day, man. And so the years are passing, but I guess I have nothing to say.
Oh man, I didn't think you could see it from that far away. But
maybe it's the lighting in my background. Now you're talking to a guy that doesn't have much hair left on this great nation of hair I used to have. But no, it's great. It's always great seeing you, Rob, and all you guys that are former Brunswick guys, Ed and Josh and everybody. And, I appreciate being on your show, and thank you. And you're asking about how our kids are doing with the playbook or new plays. So, our base offense, for example, is still intact. Now we had some coaching changes a little bit here and there, and there are some things we've added, and just like any program will. So there are some new plays, there are some new blocking techniques, there's some new signals and code words, and we've had some coaches go to other schools, so we've got to make some changes because some of those are schools that are on our schedule, so we have to account for that and what they know about us. And that's just, part of the game and part of high school football. I think our kids are embracing it tremendously. Again, going back to the previous question, July was critical for that, and teaching our kids, what we were doing. And, we don't just do, you certainly do it on the field. You do it through film study and watching and on huddle and correcting your mistakes and your technique and your fundamentals. Our offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Coach Foltz, is great with technology. I'm just an average guy. If you grade me out, I'm maybe a C minus in technology expertise, and this guy's an A plus guy. And so he's got, a great document that's electronic that's sent to all our players and coaches and filtered down to our freshman program. And Coach Relic and Coach Yarwood and Coach Koshar at our freshman level have kind of condensed what they think will be best to use out of that. And then we've got it down into our middle school a little bit and started to do that. So I feel like that what the kids have for resources to study on their own, to watch film on their own, and then what we teach on the field itself is a great way to make sure that they're embracing and prepared.
We're with Brunswick High School football head coach, Coach Mark Pizone. Coach, talking about some of the lower levels. How important is it to get the youth, to get everybody on the same page, from the high school to the freshman to the middle school, and even down to the youth programs?
I think it's real important. And to be truthful with you, if I was evaluating myself, and I do evaluate myself, I'm not particularly happy at the job that I've done to be able to get this going. Now, we've had some changes over the years. It's been, sometimes it's not just the kids, it's keeping a consistent coaching staff. And so we've had some changes to our offense over the year, which has led to the problem of passing stuff down that keeps changing to the younger kids. For us, our youth program, I think, is doing very well. We have a gentleman that's been our president. He's an alumnus, Matt Chase, that's done just a great job. He's been a godsend for us and the people he has around him. I try to do my, not to pat myself on the back, but myself and him and some others have created a great spring youth flag program with 250 kids that are in there. And of course, we have our fall program that he runs. So I feel like we're doing some great things at the youth level. At the middle school, we've had some improvements, but I feel like I need to do a little bit more, and that's my plan. We've filtered down our offense a little bit to them, but I need to work with them a little bit more with a consistent offensive playbook and even a defensive one for them. They've got great facilities, like I said. They got a great turf field and a great locker room, so facilities aren't a problem. We've got a great assistant AD. We have coaches there that are very experienced, that are right in the building, that are good teachers, good men, good people, good educators, and they want to see things happen well. So I think we're right there in terms of our middle school to have everything they need and doing everything they need to do so our kids are ready. It's actually on me. I think I need to do a little bit more. I've spent a lot of time with our varsity over the past few years because it needed so much work, and now it's time to just add that one other layer, I think, and then I think we'll be good throughout the entire program.
Coach, so the Greater Cleveland Conference is, and Ed mentioned it briefly before he came on, is adding 2 teams next year, Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights. One you're somewhat familiar with. Shaker Heights was in the GCC a few years ago, but Cleveland Heights is a new team coming in the conference. You're actually playing them week 1. Talk about, adding those schools to the conference and how that's going to help you in a competitive format.
Yeah, so when we were looking to do something here, whether it was to add or to, some people talk about leaving and joining another conference, and one idea was to add to the conference. And, I talked to several of the coaches that are already in the GCC, and we text each other and share ideas and notes and opinions. And many of them, not all of them, but many of them felt the same as I did. One of the things is not to sound selfish, but when you got 7 conference games and there's an 8-team conference, you only got to find 3 independents, and that makes your scheduling life a lot easier for you and your athletic director. So that's always a plus. So when we added both Shaker and Cleveland Heights, now we only have to have 3 independents. Maybe we're not traveling as far. It's not easy in Division I finding teams that want to play you, that are, good matchups, good competitive matchups, where, you have an opportunity to be successful and so does the other team. That's not an easy fit sometimes. So I'm glad that they have them. Shaker Heights, like you said, has been in our league before, so we're familiar with them. We've been at their place, they've been at ours, so it should be a natural transition back to having them. And then Cleveland Heights, we actually play them, like you said, week 1. Myself, I've had the honor of working with Coach Stevens, the head coach, and Coach Kalari Hicks, who's their offensive coordinator. They are the founders and creators of the Build a Bridge program, which obviously works to teach young men through football the ability to or the importance to embrace each other regardless of our differences, our color, creed, religion, skin tone, things like that. And when they reached out to me a couple years ago, along with all the other area schools, we wanted nothing other than to be a part of that at Brunswick, and we've been able to do that. I always feel like we can do more, but we work with Cleveland Heights, and I work with Kalari and Coach Stevens with that, not only with them when we 7-on-7 them or play them, but also when we go against Garfield Heights in our scrimmages. They're our sister school that we partnered up for that program, and that's all because of Cleveland Heights. So I like what they're doing over there. Those are positive men coaching that program, and good people, and I want them to be with us. So I look forward to working with both those schools starting next year.
Hey, Coach, I have one more question when it comes to scheduling. Being that in Division I, Region I, it's very likely that you'll make the playoffs in that region. Does that open to some opportunities to maybe taking a little more chances on the scheduling front? Maybe playing some teams we wouldn't normally play because for all intents and purposes, you're going to make the playoffs. We're more or less playing for seeding.
So the answer, at first glance, you would think, yeah, that it opens up the door to maybe be a little more aggressive, take some chances, try to be battle tested. That's always the magic word for it. For me, that's a thought. Our conference is as tough as it is already.
Yeah.
You want to, but besides, we think we'll make the playoffs, but you certainly want to be seeded as high as you can. You have the goal that you want to host that first game at minimum, right, and be able to do that for your school and your community, and your student body. That requires winning enough games to be in the top 8. That's no easy feat in a Region I, Division I. So you don't want to be too risky. It's certainly when you do that, if your first 3 games, or in this year it's the first, it's basically 5 games throughout the season, you don't want to be too aggressive because of injury, and what you've got in your roster. So it's not an easy question to answer. You want to be competitive, but you want to be smart about it and give your kids a chance to succeed. So it's important to schedule correctly, no matter what the situation is in terms of playoff qualification, in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, haven't been around the program as long as I've been. I know we've always been trying to touch that perfect balance as well, because we do have such a tough conference to play, tougher than a lot of conferences, just really from a playoff point standpoint there.
And Ed, not to interrupt you, Ed, but one of the things is we have additional goals besides just winning the playoffs. We want to win the conference championship, so you want to be healthy enough to do that. And so next year when we have our 7 conference games, those first 3 games, you don't want to come into them too banged up or unable to perform, because we want to win a conference championship. That's something that's eluded us in our program here since we've been back, and it's a sticking point with me, with our staff, with our kids. So it's not just all about the playoffs. There's other goals to attain from program to program.
And one final question here, Coach. Kind of going back to your squad, your 2022 squad, who are some of the standout players that we should be on the lookout for coming out of Brunswick this year that you're going to rely heavily on, either in the skill position or defensively? Who should we be putting on our map for weekly awards here?
Sure. Well, our first one, I appreciate you asking that. You always want to tout your players and build your program. And it starts with our linebacker who played defensive end last year, senior Chase Buckner. Chase is going to be playing Mike linebacker for us. He'll see some work on offense. He's got a couple responsibilities in special teams. He's a returning starter. He's an outstanding leader. We're in the process of voting for our captains, but I would think that he would be, one of the main guys that would be up for that once we count those votes. So Chase Buckner is certainly the first one that comes to mind. In the skilled position, we do have one of our running backs. We kind of had a 2 running back system last year. Luke Petrowski, who graduated, and then Brandon Nichols, who's a junior. Brandon comes back to us, and he's a senior. He's a little bigger, a little stronger, a little older, certainly more knowledgeable. He's slated to be our starting running back. Great leader, a heart of a lion. When you look at him, he doesn't look real big, but he'll come at you 150%, and he understands everything we're doing. So, he's going to get plenty of touches with the ball, Brandon Nichols. In our skilled positions, some guys that are some newer faces, you'll hear the name Cade Sam, who is the younger brother of Conan Sam, a 3-year starter of ours. and he's going to be working an awful lot at receiver and some time at corner as well, also returning kicks and punts. We've got a kid, Jimmy Toomey, who saw some time on defense. He'll be starting on defense and playing a little bit of receiver. And then Jack Safko, who will be starting at receiver and playing some monster for us. So those are most of our skilled guys. Now in the up front, we have a returning defensive lineman, Troy DeFranco. He's a defensive tackle. He'll be a senior. He started at defensive tackle last year. He's a stud, strong as heck. Has never finishes every play for us. On offense, we have Dylan Cobb returning at guard. He's a returning starting guard. Big boy, 285 pounds, and he's going to come at you. And he's got he's a real smart kid, very intelligent kid. And then our left tackle, Sean Hauser, who saw some spot time. He was our third tackle last year. He's going to anchor that blind side, left side tackle for us. He'll be, a name to watch in the interior. So there's some other guys that are still competing right now over these next week or two. We kind of have a feel who we think they are, but they still have a little proving to do. That includes that quarterback position we just mentioned with Jake Roxanich and Johnny Crawford. And we'll see, who the cream is that rises to the top, and you'll see their names when we start Friday nights.
And the first Friday night starts on August 19th. The Brunswick Blue Devils will travel to Cleveland Heights to play the Tigers in the first week of the 2022 season. Coach Pizone, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll obviously follow along over the course of the season, and we'll catch up with you and some of the players over the course of the year.
Great. Thanks for your time. Good luck. Appreciate all you guys do for high school football and high school sports overall. And Coach Dick and Coach Mr. Jeffy there, I hope you enjoy that couch time, man. You guys look comfortable there.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
So Brunswick Blue Devils head coach Mark Pizone joining us on the show, talking about the Brunswick Blue Devils and what to expect for coming up in this in the upcoming year. Without further ado, we will cut over to the head coach of the Mentor Cardinals. Matt Gray joins us all the way out from Mentor. Quick recap for Mentor: they were 5-6 overall last year with a 2-3 conference record. They were the 11th seed in Division I, Region 1, and they gave St. Ignatius, the number 6 seed, all they could handle with a 35-32 loss. He scored about 26 points per game, gave up 22. They replaced St. Ed's with Painesville Riverside on their schedule. And as far as Joe Idle says, you have a bye for week 5. That may have changed, but largely the same schedule as last year. So, Coach Gray, thank you very much for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about what the offseason's been and what you're looking for in the first couple of weeks of doubles.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on and being able to do a nice GCC preview. I saw you guys did the Southwestern Conference was the last week and diving into GCC this week and tonight. So I appreciate you guys reaching out and showing that interest in our conference and specifically our program out at Mentor. And as you mentioned, last year was an average year for us, and it's not up to our expectations. And our guys have done a tremendous job, both from players and the coaching staff, of really evaluating what caused some of those issues we had last year and putting the nose to the grindstone and just working to get better. And really proud with how we've kind of developed and grown from really December on to this point here on August 1, which is crazy that we're at this point. It just seems like yesterday we were at Byers Field against St. Ignatius. So, pleased with the way that our guys have worked and put that time into it. And really, we're just striving to get as consistent as can be and get better each and every single day. It's pretty simple of what we need to do to get better with that is that consistency aspect and being able to show up every single day and have a goal and have a mission at hand. And we got to get better at it.
Yeah, and last year, the injury bug kind of caught you a little bit with Jacob Snow at quarterback. He had his hand injury. And, when you got your lead quarterback that kind of goes down, it could be a struggle for you. Mentor's known to have great quarterbacks, just kind of waiting in the wings, and you've had some guys step up last year. So talk about the quarterback position because, that's obviously the most important position on the field in terms of leading the team. So talk about your quarterback position. Jacob Snow coming back again, healthy, ready to go.
Absolutely. And you kind of mentioned on it, it goes back to the early 2000s of the quarterback play at Mentor High. It's a high expectation. When you're starting quarterback at our school, your expectation is be a Mr. Football, to be first team all high. We're going to put a lot on your plate. And those expectations are delivered from the off season to the preseason to the regular season with it. So we're very pleased with our quarterback position right now. We kind of have a two-headed monster going on with that of Jacob. He is back and fully healthy and has had a great offseason and really grown and developed, and very pleased with where he's at, as well as we have a young buck coming up too, and Scotty Fox, who got some time last year as a freshman, which never really has happened in our history with that. So it's a good competition. I've kind of joked around throughout the last couple of weeks of people asking where they know if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. No. When you have no quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. I'd much rather be in the position we have right now with having two extremely talented young men that are competing each and every single day to make themselves better, but most importantly, the team better. And really proud of how they're growing and developing. They understand what our expectations are for that position, and they've done a tremendous job this offseason with that, just because, like I said, when you play quarterback at our place, it's not just the standard type of position. It's not just, hey, just line up and go have some fun. No, your expectation when you're our quarterback is be Mr. Football in the state of Ohio.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us, taking time out. Obviously, this is a busy part of the season, maybe even busier because they kind of kicked things off a little bit earlier than, like, as we talked with Coach Pizone and every coach we've had on, this kind of change to the routine almost of the off season or even the preseason. Do you now that we're in the kind of the second year of it, have you gotten a good handle on how you're going to prepare and pace out the practices, or is it still kind of new to everybody with the way that, we talked about it because a lot of schools aren't even in school for week one, and it kind of takes away from that, that anticipation of that community type pride and things like that, where that's all over the school. It's week one and things like that. Is that something you guys have to kind of plan for and make that routine different?
Absolutely. And especially this year too, where they added in the 2 weeks of acclimation. So it's really, don't even know when the starting date really was, when teams were putting on pads and all that.
Right.
To be 100%, you see on Twitter, you scroll through or something to that extent, like, oh, I guess this school's in full gear last Thursday or whatever it was. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of this advanced preseason. To me, there's so much that has to go into getting a football team ready to go in terms of the execution, the fundamentals, coming together as a team. And there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into it. And there's a lot of work that has to go into it. I mean, shoot, we are 4 days this week, and we're into our first scrimmage against Kenson on Friday morning. And then we'll go 4 more days next week, and then it's a scrimmage against Chardon. And then we're into game week. To me, that it's very difficult to be able to get a team ready to go to be able to operate at a full level with that, because even in the summertime, you get your 10 days that you have and you try to schedule that out, but there's always something that pops up and you want to be able to respect the kids' time and their commitments and that type of deal. But with the preseason the way it is now, it's made it extremely more challenging to be able to get a team ready to go. And we're fortunate just with our numbers. We're a 2-platoon team, so our offensive guys, defense, that would be crazy to me if we were going fully practicing both ways and all that type of stuff, because you have to be very basic and very simple. But this game will still come down to the fundamentals and the ability to will to be able to play extremely hard and extremely confident. And that's, to me, has been a big challenge for it. And ultimately, they made that change because of player safety, because they'll say, oh, concussions happen more in practice. And I don't know. To me, it's really, you're putting kids in a tough spot that might not be from a conditioning aspect, from a fundamental aspect, that might not be ready for truly game one on August 19th into that spot, and you have to be ready. And we're going to do everything in our power for it. Granted, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago where that preseason was 4+ weeks long. That was a little bit long. You know what? At this point, I'd rather have it that way, where you can be able to install a lot. You can be able to have a lot of saying, okay, hey, let's throw this at the wall. Is that going to stick? Is that what we're going to be good at? Yes or no? Now it's kind of, all right, this is what we have to be good at right now and be able to improvise on the fly. Shoot, just last year, we went from a 10 personnel to 11/20 personnel type of team kind of as the year progressed. And if we would have had more of a preseason, we would have been able to have some of that. But it's kind of the way it is right now. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but hey, it is what it is. We'll make the best out of it and be the best versions of ourselves every day.
And going off of that, I mean, that's a great answer, and something that we talk about a lot, especially because we do a lot of work with hockey and how their season kind of progresses. And, it's very much that old adage, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the mentality you have to have? I know you want to win week one, but, you want to see that progression, especially in your particular conference and honestly in your region, because there's a good chance you're going to be in the playoffs and you're playing for seeding, Is that something that maybe that coaching kind of takes now for you? I'm just asking an opinion, obviously, but you kind of have to say, okay, let's progress. Let's go. How much better do we get from week 1 to week 2, or is it the same mentality going into week 1? We want to be as perfect as possible.
No, I mean, and it's all about the process, and that's something that is we stress like crazy within our program. We don't want to be where we're at in week 5. We were at weeks 1 and 2. We don't want to be where we're in week 10. Where we're at weeks 5, 6. And so it's not chasing that end result, which now expedites it because of having a week less shortened now because of, hey, the Bullets are for real on August 19th. It's one last week. So you kind of have to expedite that process a little bit more so. But we are process-driven, everything that we have. It's not about that end result. It's about being able to improve and have our mission and our goal on a day-to-day type basis and try to improve on it. And that's where you're going to see big-time results, and that's where you see the clicking and so forth with it. Yeah, do we want to be able to be really good week 1? Yeah, but I want to be a whole heck of a lot better when we get to conference in week 6, when we get to week 10, when we get to the playoffs. I want to be a completely different football team than we were at the beginning of the season. And to me, that's where we struggled a little bit last year because of the inconsistency. Because of just not being able to have that day-to-day consistency that you need to have to be able to be a process-driven operation, and that's something that we're striving for this year.
Hey, Coach, Rob here. Again, thanks for coming on tonight. I know how busy it is with getting everybody ready for the season, and we had a chance to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks. Talk a little bit about the other positions on the team that you're really looking for players to step up, and for our viewers, who are some of the players that they are probably going to be calling their name a lot this year?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, I think, the strength of our football team, and especially from the defensive perspective, is our linebackers. We have 3 guys that have starting experience back, 3 of our 4 linebackers, and they're versatile kids. Will be able to play multiple looks and fronts and so forth because of the versatility that they have in terms of Colin Oros, Jack Adaldig, and Caden Burkholder all have starting experience for us at both inside and outside linebacker spots, and we're going to move those guys all around, and we're really excited about what they're doing right now. So those 3 are going to be guys that we're really hanging our hats on that side, and obviously up front on defensive side of the ball starts with Brennan Vernon, our Notre Dame commit, who's going to be a 4-year starter for us, and he's in a good place and doing some good things right now. So we're looking forward with that. And on the back end of the defense, Caleb Bodo is another returning starter at safety, and kind of play him in that center field position when we do our one high stuff. And he has good ball skills. So those are some guys on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I'm an old line coach, so offensively and defensively want to start with the lines and all that type of stuff. So go with those guys. Michael McClure was playing left guard for us last year. He's had an unbelievable offseason. He's lost some weight, gotten himself stronger and more athletic, and he's moving well. So we're kicking him out to tackle. And Tony Pastore, another offensive lineman that has some starting experience from last year as another senior. So those are 2 guys that we're really going to expect a lot, because we do put a lot. Yeah, we talked about the quarterback spot. We would put a lot on the quarterbacks, but we also put a lot on that offensive line. So those are 2 guys up front for us. Mitchell Waite was a kid last year that we talked about the process, again, better every single week. He just improved. And by the time we got into that conference grind, he was a bell cow for us, and he was a really good football player and a really good running back. So we're really excited to be able to have him in a confident place and expecting huge things from him running the football, because we're still going to run the football. We're going to be able to establish a mindset and mentality that we're going to have with that. And Mitchell's going to be obviously a huge part of what we're going to do. And then on the outside receiver wise, Jordan Stapleton also has some starting experience last year. He's just another kid that has just been very, very difficult, and he's been slippery to be able to lock down on defense. So we're expecting big things from Jordan there from the receiver spot.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit scary that Vernon was only a junior last year. You know, Mitchell Waite, Jacob Snow, all these guys coming back. You got a lot of returning starters back that have experience. Especially, I think it helped in the playoffs to have that experience. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that Vernon was only a junior. Had a chance to see him versus Strongsville, and I mean, there's something in the water out there that I don't know what his family's feeding him, but man, he's what, 6'7"? I mean, he was towering.
He's about 6'5", about 270 pounds right now, and the biggest thing with him is that if he continuously plays hard and plays consistent, the sky's the limit for him. Just being able to reach that potential. I mean, shoot, it seems like he's been with us forever, being a 4-year starter, and we threw him to the Wolves right away. His first 2 starts as a freshman, as a 15-year-old freshman, were against St. Ed's and St. Ignatius. Said, all right, young buck, let's see what you're going to do. You're either going to sink or swim right now, and he obviously stepped up and met that challenge and had a great year, and he's had some injury type of stuff the last couple of years, but he's healthy, and we're expecting some massive things from him this fall.
If there's something that Mentor is known for, it is 3-year starting quarterbacks who are usually in the running for Mr. Ohio football, or Mr. Football in Ohio, and also stud defensive linemen, whether it's Tom Strobel, Mitch Berger, Potter, one of the Potters, Vernon. Like, it's insane how that's just, as a former coach of Brunswick, I'm like, all right, this guy's gone. Like, this guy won't be. Then you have another one who's either just as tall or just as big or just as good, if not better, than the previous one. It's crazy how you guys are able to reload in those key positions as often as you are.
And they are all Mentor kids. I will say that they are all Mentor kids. They live in our school district. We do not go and recruit those freaky size guys and all that type of stuff. So I don't think you're implying that one. I just want to make sure I'm just joking with you guys with that. No, we've been very fortunate with the kids that have come through our program. And number one, there's an expectation of greatness. There really is. And we work 5 days a week from the off season from January on, and greatness is what they want to chase, and there's that expectation, and it's really across the board. Yeah, we've had a lot of notoriety with our defense line and our quarterbacks, like you mentioned, but it's across the board. And our kids take tremendous pride in the history. We got in the back of our jerseys, Mentor Tough, because we want to honor and take pride in being from Mentor and not past of this football program. And you look back at it, you have coaches Lee Tressel, Dick Crum, Steve Trevisano. Obviously, we know much more about Coach Triv in his 23 years as head coach, but Lee Tressel, that Tressel name is synonymous in Ohio and throughout the country. And Dick Crum went from Mentor High School to Kent State to North Carolina and back to Miami of Ohio, and there's been a lot of success. One of the schools that knocked Massillon down back in the 60s from one of their big win streaks. So there's a tremendous pride in what we do here in Mentor, and our kids know and understand that, and that's something when we take the field every Friday night, we want to be able to honor that history and that past.
And yeah, absolutely, Coach. And your team, I mean, with as successful as your program is, just within the city of Mentor, it kind of recruits for itself. I mean, kids want to go. They want to play for Mentor. They want to be the next. They want to be the next Mitch Trubisky or the next Tadas Tatarunas or the next Tom Strobel. Any litany of players that have come through the program. Now, this is your 3rd year at the helm now, as the head coach in Mentor. Maybe talk a little bit about how even though it's only been 3 going into your 3rd year, I mean, with some of and not only that, your first year is the COVID year, which is a little different than everybody. So now that we're kind of getting more closer to normal, I mean, how do you feel more? Are you feeling more comfortable being the head guy, especially with things kind of normalizing a little bit?
Yeah, because when you look at it going into 2020, we were in a great place. We're so freaking proud of where we were at, and we were moving some big time weight, and those guys were going into it, and then boom, March 14th hits, and life hasn't been the same since then. But when you really look at it, this has been our most normal off season that we had last year. We were in 3 different weight room spots. We were in both locker rooms. We were in the weight room. We couldn't have more than groups of about 12 to 15. So we didn't really get our team together until the summertime. This year's been a normal offseason where we've been able to get in the weight room as an entire group, entire unit, and spend a lot of time with the team building process and being able to get these guys, not just in the football setting, but be able to see themselves kind of outside of football, outside of the weight, see coaches in a different setting of not just being on them about this, or this, seeing the real personable side with that. And when you look at it, our numbers at our lower levels are extremely positive right now. Right now we had, going into last week when we had our middle school camps, we had over 120 kids in our 7th and 8th grade, 2 middle schools to combine with that. Our freshman class is over 50. So it's in a really good place in terms of our numbers. And this, like I said, this community is special and they buy into it. I mean, they're making big time commitment into our facilities right now. So it's great to see. And just the numbers of where we're at is really encouraging, because very soon I saw a couple articles with Kirtland, how they mentioned they have a smaller senior class. We're at 23, which is a small senior class for us, but it's a very talented senior class, and it's a group that's worked extremely hard. So really happy with that, and being able to see the numbers at the lower levels is awesome to see. I mean, like I said, there's 120 7th and 8th graders between our 2 middle schools right now. We've been searching high and low. I've been making phone calls all throughout the state of Ohio trying to find helmets for all of our guys, and I don't think we have enough right now, but it's a good problem to have, and it's exciting to see, and we're really excited about one this fall, but also our future as well too.
And Coach, kind of wrap it up, and once again, thanks for your time. We talked to Coach Pizone about this. The Greater Cleveland Conference is actually one of the few conferences out there that are going to be adding 2 new teams. Well, 2 teams next year. One's not so new, but the other one is. Talk about adding those teams and how that helps you with competitiveness. And Coach Pizone mentioned scheduling. That makes it a little easier for scheduling. So talk about the addition of those 2 teams next year and how that's going to help you and the conference as a whole.
It's huge in terms of scheduling. You guys kind of mentioned of week 5, we're still open. We've had a couple teams that verbally agreed to it, but then they back out a couple days after that fact. So at this point, we're still open week 5. So if there's anybody that is watching that is a coach or AD that has an opening week 5, please give us a call in Mentor, and we'd love to set up a game. And it doesn't have to be at Mentor. We're willing to travel, all that type of stuff. We want to be able to play on a Friday or Saturday to be able to give our guys opportunity. But adding Shaker Heights, adding Cleveland Heights, I think is going to be a tremendous thing for our conference, because one, they're going to be very talented football teams that have some great talent and some great teams that have a lot of history within their 2 programs. Coach Nicholson and Coach Stevens are doing a great job and really gotten those 2 programs turned around. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge of adding that into our conference, which is already a meat grinder as it is. And for our sake, in terms of scheduling, it's a bear to be able to schedule 5 games. We last year was a challenge. This year is even harder. We're playing a team out of Canada for week 4 again, and then week 5 it's open. So we were very fortunate with Painesville Riverside. They talking with Coach Boers, he agreed to be able to play us. So we were able to play our first local Lake County team in a game since 2010. So that's going to be a great environment. But to me, it's a scheduling aspect of being able to say, okay, hey, we only have to get 3 instead of 5. And it's the first 3 where pretty much everybody's open. So we'll have a lot more flexibility. 4 and 5 make it more difficult, and we've seen that this year. And it's frustrating because our seniors and our kids deserve those opportunities to be able to play 10 weeks with that. So it's just one of those type of things where it kind of worked out, where it just couldn't find that right opponent and being able to do it that way.
And Coach, your season does start on August the 19th, and it's certainly flown by. I'm sure the next couple of weeks are also going to fly by. The Kenton McKinley Bulldogs, a very storied program down in Stark County, are going to come up to what they call the JTO. It took me a while to get to kind of say that, because we never had a whole lot of success there. So I was like, man, all right. But they're going to go to the JTO and give it a shot against the Mentor Cardinals. Coach Gray, thank you so much for joining us. We will keep an eye on the team. I hope we get some players on over the course of the season, and we'll check in with you either as the season rolls on and after the season as well.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you guys having me on to talk about our program here, and really appreciate you guys shining a spotlight on us as the Mentor Cardinals, but most importantly our conference and everything that you guys do in high school football. I think the publicity that you guys are able to do, it's awesome because it's able to get the word, and up here in Northeast Ohio, it's a high caliber and high level of play, and we take a lot of pride in it. So I really appreciate all that you guys do with it, and I understand if there's anything that you guys ever need from our end in Mentor, just let us know. We'll be able to be able to do it when you guys reach out anytime. We'll have to be able to jump on with you guys and appreciate the opportunity. So thanks for everything, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Really appreciate
Coach.
that. And good luck this season. We'll be following you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Matt Gray of the Mentor Cardinals, again, starting their season this 2022 season at home against the Kenton McKinley Bulldogs. And then they take on St. Ignatius and then Painesville Riverside. Football North from Canada, before they start the season in the conference. And it's, Mentor, we're not used to seeing Mentor having the 5-5 years, but I think last year was completely explainable with the fact that not only did Jacob Snow get hurt, but Scotty Fox got hurt at a certain point. When you're trying to quarterbacks that are that caliber, especially, Josh, as you've seen over the years, they're just tough to replace, and especially mid-season. But Coach Gray and Coach Gray did a great job of weathering that storm. They gave Ignatius all they can handle in that playoff game, and even the year before when Ian Kipp was not able to play in the semifinal game, Jacob Snow almost won that game as a sophomore. It's that the program just continues to churn out great talent, and it's a credit to the coaching staff, it's a credit to the community. It's credit to the program, really.
Yeah.
So as we break away from, so we've talked about Brunswick, we've talked about Mentor. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about Medina, Solon, Euclid, and Strongsville before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, this conference has a lot of question marks in it, and Medina is one of the biggest ones. How do you replace Drew Allar? I mean, there's some people would say that you really can't. So who's going to step up? I mean, one of their key playmakers they have coming back is Brendan Schramm. Last year, he had 82 receptions, over 1,300 yards, and he had 14 touchdowns. Now, a lot of that had to do with the talent at the quarterback position, but is it going to be Luke Fisher? He's one of the guys that, he's going to be a senior this year. Will he step up? So they're going to be an interesting team to watch. Solon, they had a pretty decent year under first-year head coach Brian Wisniewski, 4-7 total overall record. But they're led by the running game, E.J. Taylor, 1,400 yards rushing last year. And then they got some good playmakers, especially Joe Capasso on the outside. Their defense looks to become a little more solid this year. Again, quarterback position is a question mark for them. Do they have enough at that position to provide enough plays and to lead the offense? As we go down to Euclid, they can go nowhere but up. They were 0-10 last year. As we mentioned, new coach for them, Robert Andrews, coming over from Rhodes. He led them to the playoffs last year. But they're going to be led by their defense. They have two guys coming back, Ryan Merrill, the linebacker, who is one of the tops in the GCC in tackles, and then Chase Smith, the defensive end. He actually led the GCC last year in sacks with 13.5. So those guys are going to be some of the key playmakers on defense. And then Solon, as we mentioned earlier, I wanted to reiterate that Solon is actually dropping to Division II. So that's going to be something to watch too. We talked tonight that for most of the teams that in this conference, they're in Division I, Region 1. 16 out of the 17 teams make the playoffs, and that pretty much consists of every GCC team except for Euclid last year, who went 0-10. So that's going to be something to watch too. Finally, Strongsville, they lost a lot of key players. Blake Miller, the Clemson recruit, offensive tackle, Maddox Beard, the quarterback, and Anthony Gentili, the running back, all graduated this year. So I'm looking to see who's going to be stepping up for them on the offensive end. But Strongsville, in some aspects, just like Mentor, especially in the offensive line, can churn out some huge offensive linemen. So they're going to have some guys that are waiting in the wings to step up to protect who's ever going to be playing quarterback for them. I'm looking forward to it, guys. I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. Right now, it's kind of up in the air. We talked to Coach Gray, and he seemed a little determined. Like last year was disappointing for them, obviously, and I think they're going to come back strong. And going back to Coach Pizone, they're a team kind of in transition as well. They had some big question marks in some key areas, especially at the quarterback position. I know I keep talking a lot about that, but in high school football, if you have a really good quarterback, you are going to go far. And we saw that, you know, if we look at Mentor and Medina with that incredible run with – now, granted, guys like Drew Aller don't come around very often, but when they do, you got to take advantage of it. And Medina did last year. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Well,
oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was going to say, you know, Solon, I think, is going to have a really good team this year. You know, they're bringing some guys back. E.J. Taylor, like you said, running back. I mean, he had 17 touchdowns last year and almost 1,500 yards rushing. Charlie Bubonics, you're talking about the quarterback position. He did play a little bit of quarterback, got his feet wet last year at quarterback. Can he really step up and lead this team on offense? Because they have the wide receivers there and offensively, and maybe dropping down a little bit will help them. But Mentor, I think they're going to be really dangerous. They are every year, but this year, I mean, they have a lot of returning players that started last year. You know, you don't see too many teams, I feel like, get as many injuries as they had last year and still compete. I mean, I know it was only they're at 500, but you know they're missing their first, you know, their starting quarterback, then their backup quarterback, and they're going into third string, and they're still competing at a pretty high level, and their running back position's always pretty strong. So it's going to be fun in the Greater Cleveland Conference to see what some of these teams can do. And Brunswick is young, but can they, under the Friday Night Lights, just show what they can do? I think it's going to be a great experience for them this year. Maybe they'll surprise some people. In Strongsville, you said it, Josh, offensively and on the offensive line, they always seem to bring back and retool at the offensive line. But in the specialty positions, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to step up and really take a lot of that offensive play, some high offensive plays there, because last year, you know, they had a lot of really solid plays by the quarterback position and the running back. They're going to be missing that this year, but somebody's going to have to step it up. So it'll be fun to see what this conference has. And I love Cleveland Heights, you know, joining. I think they're a team that always is there. They have a lot of great athletes. Shaker Heights, you know, they were in the Greater Cleveland Conference, and then I think wanted a break from everybody, and they miss everybody in the Greater Cleveland Conference, so they came back. And it'll be fun to have both those teams back. And I think you saw from Coach Pizone and Gray that they're both very excited to have those teams back.
I think it's going to be, you know, as we look forward, you know, to the season, I think conference play in this particular conference alone, given the fact that there really is only 5 conference games, I think you could see a team get hot coming into this. Obviously, you have Mentor. Mentor is Mentor. I mean, that's what they are every year. Last year, I agree with Coach Gray, is a fluke. But as I asked Coach Gray, I said, is that mentality is progression, better each week. A team like Brunswick, Coach Pizone said, they are a young team, but they're starting off on the right foot. They're at their install. They're doing better. Can a team like a Brunswick allow those younger players to flourish and grow week to week and start, you know, gaining momentum as they move towards the playoffs? Solon, I think, is actually in a very beneficial position because they can slug it out in the GCC, and good wins get them huge computer points. Am I wrong yet? I mean, just going and playing in this conference puts them in a position now that they're in Division II where they could be, if it all works out and they have a great season, and they end up being in the tops of the GCC, they're going to be in the top of whatever region they're in. And I think that's just going to be afforded to them because they're playing in the GCC. Now, we mentioned it's for competitive. It could be enrollment. We don't know. But right now, Solon is a Division II team in a sea of Division I teams. So you're going to have those points. You're going to have those points out there for a team like Solon to make the playoffs. But also, I think they're going to say, hey, we're not just a team that's, for lack of a better term, sandbagging here. We need to go down to Division II. We're playing. But they're not shying away from their schedule. I think Strongsville's a team that could be very, very good if they get on a roll. Euclid, as Josh made it very clear, they have every opportunity to improve from last year. There's nowhere they can't be any worse than they were last year. So they're going to move. But that big question is Medina. And Josh, you hit it right on the head. You're replacing Drew Aller. And that was a once-in-a-generation talent for a program like Medina. How do they continue? And it's going to be important for that coaching staff to realize that Drew Aller's not there, but the pieces that were around him are still remaining. How do you utilize those? How do you get the quarterback? You're not asking the new quarterback to be Drew Aller. You're asking the quarterback to to run the system, and that's going to be important. And I think that coaching staff understands what's in front of them, and they know they have the pieces in place where they don't need Drew Aller to do Drew Aller things. They need the quarterback to run their system, and I think that's going to be very important. But again, I think in this case, all roads, as they always do in the GCC, run through Mentor. And just given the talent they have, both sides of the ball and quarterbacks is definitely going to be something to look out for this year.
I'll say one last thing about before we wrap it up here, with specific to Solon joining, having been moved down due to enrollment. That's how the divisions work. It's based off the amount of boys that are in your school, 10 through 12. And then without getting too far into it, some parochial schools are subject to a different formula, if you will. So teams, basically who doesn't live in where the home parochial school is, they get multiplied by X amount. So that's why you see some schools you may think maybe on the smaller end, they get bumped up because they're getting kids from outside of their home district. That's how the competitive balance works. So Solon, as a public school, their enrollment numbers were probably just beneath the Division I cut, but as a very high enrollment Division II team. And instead of playing Mentor and Ignatius and Eds and McKinley and some of the other Division I stalwarts in their region, they only get to join the region with Archbishop Hoban out of Akron. And teams like Barberton and Nordonia, now Austintown Fitch. So there are certainly no slouches in Division II, Region 5, as we've covered this over the years. To your point, Sean, if they can get a couple, they get 3 or 4 wins in the Greater Cleveland Conference, and as long as they take care of some business in their non-conference, they will be in line to host at least 1, if not 2, playoff games. Before the bogey that is Archbishop Hoban rears their heads at some point during their playoff run. All right, gentlemen, that is the Greater Cleveland Conference. Again, we were joined by Brunswick Blue Devils head coach Mark Pizone and Mentor Cardinals head coach Matt Gray. This was the Greater Cleveland Conference High School Preview Show. Next week, we have the Suburban League with my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy. He's going to be talking about the American and National Division. He will have the sweet PowerPoint up again. And we're working through getting some coaches ready to roll for that preview show as well. And they will have the Great Lakes Conference a week after that. And then it's week 1. It's time to roll when it comes to the high school football season. So again, a great show. Again, check us out. You're watching this right now live on YouTube. 199 subscribers. So someone get the 500. Get us to 500. Let's roll here. Sean was doing the sell job last week. I'll give him a little bit of a break. He's still chugging chocolate milk to sound.
I'll do it again. I don't care. If you want the best coverage of high school football in Northeast Ohio. I don't understand why you're not subscribing, smashing that notifications bell. You need to be on this site every Monday so that we can bring you the absolute best high school sports football coverage in the nation, maybe in the world. I don't know. I don't know what kind of high school footballs they do in China. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, I'll put our sauce up against anyone else's on the internet or on the YouTubes, however you want to call it. But don't forget to follow us at SOT Podcast on Twitter. Go to our website, SOTpodcast.com. We're on Facebook. Are we on Instagram? We're on Instagram. And please, let's make this interactive. Please reach out to us. Sports on Tap Podcast at gmail.com. And provide us with stats and correct pronunciation of your players, so that way we can get them all the run they want on our show, on a weekly show.
Hey,
listen,
if there's a commercial that wants Sean to do a voiceover, he's raring to go for it right now. He's kind of like the Micro Machines guy. He can spit out a lot of words in a really quick amount of time.
First off, I want to say, I don't plan this stuff. I just do it. That's a one take duffy is what they call it.
Here's our website. Our website is sportsontappodcast.com. You can join us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. There.
So far, I'm right.
And for those of you who want to subscribe to the page, it does exist. So there we go. Smash that subscribe button right there, as Sean likes to say it.
There it is.
$499. Let's get us to 500. And now we've turned into a hack show. Besides this, we want to thank everybody for joining, for watching us today, supporting your local high school community. Next week, again, the Suburban League, we will be back. Same time, same Zoom meeting for Sports on Tap. Rob Traum and Josh Duffy and Sean Duffy. My name is Ed Dick. We will see you on the other side.